From chef to floral designer to mentor, Preston Coghill has always led with his heart. He built a career in Las Vegas creating beauty for the world to see, then chose to return home to bring hope and theater to the people who needed it most. On this episode of The Significance, Preston reflects on how giving back has defined his journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. The Significance with Tyler and Signy starts now. Today on The Significance, we're joined by someone who has spent his life making things beautiful, not just on tables or in ballrooms, but in people's lives. Preston Coghill is a chef, a floral designer, a mentor, and a man who has continually turned hardship into healing through the power of creativity. From designing arrangements for high-end resorts in Las Vegas to co-founding Broadway in the Hood, an arts program that gave voice and purpose to at-risk youth, Preston has always led with his heart. But after reaching the height of his career in one of the most glamorous cities in the world, Preston made a radical move. He returned home to Winterville, North Carolina. Why? To bring hope, theater, and opportunity to the people who needed it most. He's proof that significance isn't about how far you go, but how deeply you're willing to give. Preston, welcome to The Significance. We're really happy to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Preston, I just want our viewers to know that you are a dear friend of mine, so I am really happy to have you. So obviously you were born in Winterville, North Carolina. What kind of household did you grow up in? And how did creativity first show up in your life?
Well, I grew up just like anybody else, just in a normal household with my mom, my grandmother, and then just a lot of family. It was interesting because I found my creativity on it was like a little stoop that my grandmother had from the kitchen to the den. And my grandmother used to always say, stay out of the kitchen. Because my grandmother was the main cook, of the family. And I loved watching her to be able to, to cook and stuff. And everybody in my family pretty much are good cooks, but my mom is also an excellent cook as well. So that's how it all really, really started, with me just being around family, and just enjoying them. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So you trained in both culinary and floral arts. Did one of those passions come first, or did they sort of emerge together?
I would say that my culinary end came first because it was my high school teacher that encouraged me, my home economics teacher. She was the one that really, really encouraged me and thought that, and she saw that I had a talent with cooking. And then she involved my principal of the school as well. And so it had gotten to the point where none of the teachers would even go to lunch. They were bringing things from home and had me to cook for them at the school. And so, I mean, they even helped me with my paper to write to get into college. They did everything for me to make that happen. And I owe it to them because they saw it in me that I really didn't see in myself at that time. I just loved to cook. So I never went to the lunchroom or the cafeteria at all through my whole entire high school year. It was always in the home economics class. So it was, yeah.
I would have been right there with you, no doubt.
Yeah.
And how wonderful that they really encourage that in you. That's, I don't think that that's common, but when you come across teachers that do something like that and a principal as well, what a gift. What a gift. But both your grandmother and your mother were incredible chefs, right? Or cooks, I should say. Right?
Yeah, they were excellent cooks. So, so I got it typically from them.
I'm waiting for an invitation to your house for dinner. That's wonderful.
Yeah, school is not like it used to be. When they took out those
No.
programs and stuff out of the school, a lot of people think it's all about the sports, but it's really not about the sports. It's those other kids that have other gifts and talents that, really we learned from by being in school.
Johnson and Wales is one of the most prestigious culinary schools. So what drew you there in particular, and what did you
Mhm.
take from that experience that still guides you, would you say?
I loved Johnson and Wales University. It was very, very expensive. There were not a lot of Blacks that went to Providence, Rhode Island, of all places, because it was very, very cold. I enjoyed it, and learning all the the different aspects and the correct way of being able to present food. And I have this story. It is so funny. So my professor at that time told me we had a project to make potato salad. And so I said, "Oh, this is perfect. I know how to do that." Well, it wasn't Southern potato salad. They gave me the New England potato salad. So there's a difference.
Mm,
Southern
Hmm.
potato salad
definitely.
has mayonnaise and mustard and pickles and
Hmm.
eggs and that type of thing. Well, the New England way was to boil potatoes, red potatoes, and you roast them in the oven and you put it on top of lettuce. So when he looked at mine, he was like, "What is this?" And I told him, I said, "This is potato salad." And he was like, "No, that's not what we were looking for." I
No,
said, "Well, I'm not
it's
understanding."
not.
You wasn't very clear in what you wanted. So yeah, so that was
Right.
hilarious, during that time. And then I had Julia Childs came and visit the school. And I was in mixology during this time. And I absolutely adored her. And it was so shocking to see, a celebrity at that time to come into the school. And during mixology, I don't know what I did, but whatever I did, I ended up pouring in like some baking soda or something, and it just exploded. And she turned and she looked and she laughed, and stuff like that. But it was a whole disaster that,
Oh
Oh my
that went on at
no.
god.
that time.
Oh
But yeah,
no.
I absolutely loved culinary. I think there would be one thing that I would do a little different. Um, is that I learned a lot by being in culinary, but of course, culinary school is a bunch of chefs, that work at different restaurants and things of that sort. I would have probably have taken my career just a little bit different and worked for some really well-known restaurants and then took that path a little bit different compared to just leaving from college and then moving back to North Carolina and then doing that. I wouldn't say that I made a bad choice, but I would say that I probably would have did it just a little bit different, especially with teaching and training other people in the arts of the culinary. Um,
Right.
and especially when you're very low on income and mom wasn't sending any money and stuff like that, while you're in school and so you had to really, really make your way to do it. So yeah, I probably would have told them to just do something just a little different. And then that is to work in or work with someone restaurant wise that you may have dreamed about or wanting to go and, do and learn from. Because
Right.
I learned
I
more
thi
outside of school than I did actually in school.
Right. The
Hmm.
practice, 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 practice. Other
Yes.
than Julia Child, who are some of your other favorite chefs? I'm just curious because 'cause I'm a complete and total crazy
Well, during the
foodie
time when I
person.
when I grew up, and was in school, I mean, Emerald Lagasse was there.
Mhm.
Um, Pat Neely, from Down Home with the
Wow.
Neelys. Matter of
Yep.
fact, I'm actually very, very good friends with Mr. Neely. We conversate and talk right now for different things. I've really, really learned a lot from them, per
Mm,
se, just in their style of things, only because it still kind of brought some some understanding as far as being Southern and then trying to express and make that look the way that you want it to look. So
and the French have the saying, "The first bite is with the eyes." the presentation. And I bet that teacher of yours, if I hope he tasted that Southern potato salad. That's how my mother makes it. My mother made some kick you know what in the butt potato
Yes,
salad, and just it's my favorite recipe making it
yes.
that way. So
We often talk about where you're from and are you able to dream and see things, for yourself. So obviously, when you got there and you were exposed to these world renowned chefs and all of those amazing things, did the young Preston growing up in the South, could you see that? Were you a dreamer? Did you see outside of where you were, your reality?
At the time, I would say yes. I was always before my time of doing things. I think only because of being so creative. Um, and then I experienced a lot with trying to create different things. I have a I have a mind. My mind is very weird at times. Like I can see stuff and then I can create it just by looking at it. So I don't have to really study it to do it because I'm gonna make it my way regardless.
mhm,
But
Mhm.
right.
but you will see the resemblance in whatever that is. And I typically this is what I usually tell the young people is to be able to look at if somebody give you an object, how can you change that object to make it yours? And I think a lot of my teachers have instilled that in me when I was coming up, with designing and doing different things. Like they would give me something and then just let me just be me and create it. Because if one person doesn't like it, it's not to say that someone else is not going to like it.
You moved to Las Vegas in 2001 and built an extraordinary career. What was that chapter like for you?
That was an interesting one. So after college, I came back. I worked for the Radisson Hotel as a pastry chef, and I said, if I can do this for them, I can do this for myself. So I ended up leaving the Radisson, started a business, catering business, did really, really well in it. And in that process, I ended up coming down with Bell's palsy. And I didn't know what that was at the time. So, but one side of my face went paralyzed.
Oh my.
And I thought it was, a stroke. And I went over to my mom because at this time I lived across the street from my mother. So um, I went to her and I told her, I said, I'm not sure what's going on, but if I drink anything, it's coming out the side of my face.
Oh my
So she was
goodness.
like, well, do you want me to go to the hospital with you? And I said, no. I said, I need to go by myself. So I did. I went and I was, went to the doctor and he, did his test or whatever. I just prayed and I said, God, I said, I don't know what this is, but whatever it
Mm,
is, I need you to tell me what I need to do.
yeah.
And so now take in mind, I'm at the hype of my career of, being in
Hmm.
catering and doing a lot of events and, all kinds of stuff. And so I drifted off to sleep. And then he came in the room, woke me up, and he was telling me, everything that was Bell's palsy and all this kind of stuff. But my message that came back from God was that he says, it's time for you to go. You need a change. And so I took that into consideration and I said,
Mhm.
well, I'm not exactly sure what that means, but whatever it is, I'll just make it happen. So he guided me. I ended up getting a phone call from my grandmother in Las Vegas. My grandmother and grandfather lived in Las Vegas. And they called me out of the blue and I hadn't talked to her in years. I mean, since like a small child. And she asked me what was I doing, and I told her I said, "Well, nothing at the moment." And she was like, "Well, would you like to come and visit?" And I said, "Sure." So, take in mind, I had just gotten this news. My face is
Mm,
limp,
No.
and I needed a change.
mm-hmm.
Right.
So I ended up selling off everything and stuff, and I got on the well. Actually, I was going to drive to Vegas, but that didn't work out. My car crashed on me in the midst of all that. So I had no other choice but to take a flight. So I got my ticket and I flew to Vegas. I got off of the plane And I started walking through the airport, and this lady runs up to me and she was like, oh my God, I just have to tell you that Vegas is for you. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, this weird lady coming up to me talking about Vegas is for me. She was like, well, how long have you been here? And I said, ma'am, I'm literally just getting off the plane. I'm not understanding, but okay, if you say so. So I meet my grandparents, I get my luggage and everything. And my grandfather, I never forget what he said. He says, God, your luggage is really heavy. Are you planning to stay? And I was like, no, I'm not planning to stay. But in my mind, I'm like, yes, I'm planning to stay. I don't know how, but I'm going to stay. So at this time, my grandparents and them, they loved bingo, both of them. And so that night they said, well, we're going to play bingo. Do you want to go? I said, sure. Now take in mind, I had done very, very well, made money in North Carolina, but I ended up with only $137.18 in my pocket. And I got there, we went to bingo, I hit the jackpot for 10 grand. I said, oh, I remember
That lady
what
was
this
an
lady
angel at the
doing.
airport. Oh, I
So
love
I
it.
said, oh, I guess she was right. Vegas must be for me. So needless to say, the next morning I got up, I looked in the paper for a job, without my grandparents and them knowing. And I saw this job at Nellis Air Force Base. And I called the lady. During this time, it was easy to get jobs because as long as you do the work, you can get a job. Nowadays, I can't say the same thing. They take you on a third degree, like he's like
Oh, yeah.
Fort Knox, to get a job.
Yep.
So
5 different interviews.
Yes, I was like, oh my God. So I ended up calling the lady on the phone, and she asked me, she says, do you have some experience in floral? I said, yes, absolutely. I did not. So she says, well, I need you to come out and I'll need you to do, an arrangement or whatever. So I did. I went out. She says, I need you to make me an arrangement. I said, okay. I said, well, what do you want me to put it in? And that's all I needed to know. And so she gave me the vase that she wanted it in. And she says, you can use any of the flowers in the cooler. I said, okay. So
Wow.
She says, I'll be right back. So I said, okay. So I did the arrangement and everything. She came back. She was like, oh my God, that's absolutely beautiful. She was like, when can you start? And I said, I can start tomorrow if you need me to. She was like, well, give me a little bit more time because, I got to get you on the base and, and all that kind of stuff. So I said, okay. So I left from there, and across the street, they had these, they call them weeklies. And it was across the street from Nellis Air Force Base. So I went over there. I got, it had everything inclusive, like everything, the bed, the
Furnished,
furniture,
everything.
everything was there.
Pots and
Table,
pans.
TV, everything. So I did that. I got that done. I had rented a car from Enterprise to get myself around. And I paid for 3 months there until I could, build up some checks and all that kind of stuff. And got that behind me. And that's how I started. I started with not knowing anything to knowing a lot. And then about a year later, the gentleman that used to come out to Nellis Air Force Base, he had a friend that was that worked at the MGM, and he referred me to her. I went and did that, and she ended up loving my work and then putting me over the weddings and the mansions. And so I was doing all of the florals from there, and it just kept going on and on and on. And people continually, after, seeing my work and all of that, they just kept telling people. So I just kept getting more and more jobs or business or whatever just by word of mouth, from people.
It was like a domino effect. Boy, is that woman at the airport, she was an angel giving you a forecast of what was to come.
And it was okay.
Mm-hmm. I love that you were gonna, and look at what you stepped into.
And if anything, I kind of look at that situation as if she gave you anything, it was to pay attention.
Correct.
Exactly.
To things that you might not have,
your surroundings.
Yeah.
Now, I thought your suitcases were really heavy because you had brought all your pots and pans and all your cooking utensils, because I would do that for sure. I have traveled in a car in a van with a box of like pots and pans and my have my my knife kit and with my spatula and all my stuff in there. I don't play around when I'm traveling. So, can you describe your work with luxury properties like Paris, Las Vegas, Caesar's Palace, and MGM? What was the most extravagant design you ever pulled off? And I bet there were lots of them.
I would say the one that most people knew about was the lion at the MGM. To be able to help with creating that was truly remarkable.
So
Um,
was it a lion actually an arrangement?
and an arrangement, yes.
Wow.
Yes, that was out of flowers, totally created out of that. I mean, there were so many. Just being able to do those lobby pieces, like I absolutely loved the lobby pieces because it was the first thing people saw when they first came in, and then you had to grab their attention right from there to say, "Oh my God, look how stunning and how beautiful, those are." Now, when you go to Vegas, you don't really see any of that. After COVID, they've gotten rid of a lot of
Oh, how sad.
those floral arrangements. Like, I mean,
Sad.
we spent millions of dollars on flowers alone, just in those
Yeah.
lobbies, and just throughout. I mean, designing flowers for, of course, weddings, which was
Mm.
always elaborate, but yet simple, because we did so many of them. And then the mansions as well, like I spoke about, being able to do that. I remember the time when I was at Caesar's Palace and I had to do Elton John and had to take it to his suite, which, take in mind, these suites are like 10,000, 5,000 square
Oh, I'm
feet.
sure.
Like they're like homes,
Hmm.
and stuff. And especially for those that have the residency there. So we had to do florals for all of that. So it can get really out there when it comes down to being creative with florals. Like, flowers are some of the most amazing. I call them living creatures because
I agree.
they require attention just like
Hmm.
a human does. They need sun, they need water, they need light,
They need
they need
air.
love,
They
they
need
need air,
love.
they
Yep.
need everything. So yeah.
If I see a plant in a, in a store or something and always water, and I'm like, I have to take this plant home and nurse it back to health. But my garden and my indoor plants respond to what is going on with me emotionally. It just does. It does. But I'm also a person. I found myself when I go to the beach and I'm collecting rocks because I'm another crazy rock person and shell person. I feel bad for the shells that are not perfect, and so I have to pick those shells up as well, so they have a place to come home to, because I'm like, "Who if I don't take this shell, who's gonna take the shell?" Okay, I'm nuts, Tyler, and I know it.
I'm not going to be on
We've already
camera.
agreed
I'm
upon
not going to
that.
be on camera for this segment. Okay. I just want to let our viewers know if I didn't pull her out of the garden, she would still be there for the show. So be thankful I pulled her out of the garden or we wouldn't have a show.
That is a true story. And then he said, "And by the way, you might wanna take a shower or a bath because you look like a human dirt clod."
I love humility. I love humbleness. And something that we love to discuss with people is how society defines success for us and how we define success for ourselves. You've always been someone who, if you pulled off this extravagant arrangement in a hotel, you didn't
Mhm.
need the recognition. You didn't need people to know, oh, he did that. Where does that come from? And how do you define success for yourself?
I never needed the attention, um, at all. Even with Broadway in the Hood and the organization that I had the pleasure of being with, a lot of people didn't know that I was the one doing a lot of the work behind it, from the costuming to the events to helping with some of the direction and helping with putting on the production and stuff like that. So even to the day, a lot of people don't really know who I am or what I'm even about because I just don't publicize myself like that. I don't need the recognition to feel the joy that God has given me these talents to do.
That's
Like, I
beautiful.
just really enjoy
That is
seeing
beautiful.
people's faces and seeing what they say, about the work. That's it. That gives me all the gratification ever, being able to do that. So I just love doing what I do.
So that is your definition of being successful.
Yes.
Being
Yeah.
passionate about it and having that, because you do have a tremendous amount of humility.
Yes. I
And
used
that's
to tell people
beautifully
all the
put.
time, if I died today, I wouldn't say that God could never say that I didn't use every talent that he gave me.
No,
That's wonderful.
no,
No,
no, no.
not even. I try to use every single talent that he gives me, right or wrong, but I have to at least do it. At least, even if it's just for one time, I need to be able to do that so I can say, at least I did that.
And at least I tried. You know how important that is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because who wants to get to a point, as we get older and things slow down or whatever, that we say to ourselves, "Why how come I never did that? I always
Right.
wanted to. I never
Right.
tried it." I
Right.
just, no regrets. So,
Now, even when people tell me that they don't want to do it, or they don't want to support it, or they don't want to do it, I say, okay, that's fine, but I'm gonna figure out a way to do it. You know, Even if I have to fund it myself, or if even I have to, try to figure it out the way that I need to. I just have to do it because God gave it to me. He gave me the idea to do it, so I'm going to do it. Right or wrong, I'm just going to do it.
a wonderful principle to live by.
Yeah.
How did your creative life shift when you began working in elder care as a food service director for a dementia facility?
So in the midst of me doing the Floral and all that kind of stuff with Nellis Air Force Base, I said that I needed to have a job that had a little benefits to it. So because the Floral did not offer benefits, so I applied for a job at a retirement community in Las Vegas, dealing with people with Alzheimer's and dementia. So I ended up taking the job as their food service director. And it was the most rewarding job that I could honestly say. I learned more by just listening to the patients, and you have to catch it. You have to catch it
Hmm.
Right.
and this is where
Right.
I learned how to pay attention
Mhm.
and slow everything down and listen, because there's some information in it that you would miss if you're not paying attention. And so I did that for a while there. And then when I ended up moving back to North Carolina, I ended up working as a food service director for another facility here, and
Mhm.
they had an Alzheimer's unit as well. And this is where I learned to write, really, because my boss at the time was on the phone with one of the patient's family member, and he was letting him know that his mother was about to pass. And
Oh, dear.
she needed for him to come back or whatever.
Mhm.
And his comment back to her was that he was on vacation with his wife, and he did not want to be disturbed. Don't call him until she's dead.
Oh my, no.
And it broke my
Oh,
heart, because I had just moved back to North Carolina for my mom.
right.
So it was about the most heartbreaking thing I think I
Oh,
could possibly
horrible.
do. So I ended up writing for 3 days. I wrote Old Timers, the musical, in 3 days, and it deals with people battling with Alzheimer's and dementia. But yeah, so needless to say, everything that I've done, there's always been a purpose in my journey. And I always tell people this is the journey of my life, because everything that I have been attached to and have dealt with has been very much meaningful in some way. Even if it's good or bad, it has been very, very meaningful.
After the 2009 recession, many people shut down creatively, but you stepped into something new. How did Broadway in the Hood come to life?
I was working at a Floral company, individual company, and she did like all of the. That's how I ended up doing with a lot of the other hotels on the strip, because she had a contract with them. But I was working for her, and then um, She says, I have a friend named Tori Russell that I would love for you to meet. He was the personal assistant to Tyler Perry, and he did shows. And so I said, okay. So she happened to be out one day, and Tori came in, and I ended up doing some flowers and stuff for him for the stage and all that. She asked me, she was like, so did Tori come? I said, yeah, he came. She's like, did you have a conversation? I said, yes. And she says, well, what do you think? I said, he's an ass.
Wait, tell us what you really think.
Right. So then, needless to say, he ended up going back to Atlanta. I ended up flying to California or something. And then I ended up coming back, and he ended up coming back about the same time. He came in and got some flowers again. And then we actually had a conversation. And so, and over the conversation, he asked me if I went to church. And I said, yes. And he was like, well, I really would like to go, but I don't know where to go. So I said, well, you want to come? I'll pick you up and we can go, to church. So we ended up going to church. And then after that, we sat down and actually had a conversation about what he was doing, what kind of vision that he had. I was good with culinary and stuff, and he was great with stage and performing and all of that. And so we said, well, how about let's put this organization together and let's see how we can be able to work together with doing it. So we ended up creating a Source of Joy Theatricals Broadway in the Hood. And so, and the acronyms for it was helping others open doors. So there were a lot of people that we considered across the tracks that was not able to go to the Strip and see the Broadway shows and see all the, the different shows and stuff that was on the Strip. So we decided to train, the youth on that side and in the performance of the arts. And yeah, it ended up being
Wonderful.
mostly the theater part of it than the culinary part of it. So I ended up getting into more of doing the costuming of it and stuff like that. And that's how we ended up creating it. And we ended up creating it off of our unemployment checks.
What a story. That's just great.
In your life and your story, things happen and one thing leads to another, which happens for most people. But I feel like you had to have been present to really notice these things. Some people literally need speed bumps, because they have blinders on. Would you say that you were present, or you are a present person to?
I'm very present when it comes down to when it's time to change. I'm not going to let the change affect me in knowing what to do or how to do, because when I start to see stuff shift, I'll start to know if it's time for me now to move to the next thing. And I don't have a problem with it at all. Like I don't think I would ever be stuck in a position where I don't think about how to be able to maneuver myself into whatever that next change is. Sometimes I think people get stuck in stuff because they're so used to it, and then they don't want to start the new. But you have to be able to maneuver, and especially in the creative world, you have to be able to reinvent yourself a lot.
Yeah.
You may have the
Flexible.
finances today, but tomorrow it might not be that way.
Yeah.
You might be trying to figure out, okay, where am I going to, have my next meal, or how am I going to pay this light bill, or how am I going to pay, whatever. But at some point in time, you get to the point where you just kind of stay afloat and stay focused on that voice that you have. And it's kind of hard to explain when people don't know what that voice is. But there's a little voice that goes off and says, I need you to do something. And you're like, what is this all about? And I have these conversations like, okay, Lord, now why are you moving me now? So when people ask me, they say, well, what are you going to do next? I say, I don't know, but whenever the Lord speaks, I just do.
Yeah, I'll know when I know. Exactly.
When I know.
But change is uncomfortable. I'm sure a lot of times you had to get uncomfortable, but then when you look back now, if you hadn't, that
It would have
wouldn't
been
have, you would have
a
missed that
different outcome.
opportunity. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
But I
And
think
I'm
that
grateful for it because I've met so many people throughout my years just being that way.
Mm,
And when people talk that, I said, yeah, I've been around a lot of celebrities. I've been around a lot of people that didn't have either, but at the
mhm,
end of the day, they still people.
mhm,
yeah,
So,
yeah,
and they go through sometimes more things than you would even expect them to go through. You just don't know about it,
mhm.
but
exactly.
they go through a lot. Like life is life,
Yep.
And
and
it
you
comes
just
at
got to
all of us.
at every single one,
Mhm.
and like I said, a change can come at any time, but I
Mhm.
thank God that I can be able to recognize when I need to make a shift.
Well, the question that Tyler asked you, about being present, I think the story that you shared about having to contact, the son of the woman who was ready to pass away, and the response that you got, and that you also said that learning to work with people who are dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's, that you have to slow way down because we can all be guilty of going a million miles an hour on any given day and missing so much of what's around us, or just somebody sharing something. You ask a question, you're not even there long enough to hear the answer. Or if you do hear the answer, you're not present enough to hear like a voice inflection that might indicate that something's wrong or something's painful or whatever it is. So, what a beautiful lesson to be able to learn that. I mean, it seems that you've learned many of them. So,
You went from stage shows to Emmy recognition and gifting lounges at the Golden Globes. How did you navigate all of that kind of attention when you?
So the Golden Globes, we ended up getting that. Myself and Tori went to the GMA. I just happened to be talking to this young girl, and she was like, "Oh, she was like, you're exactly what we need, and we would love to have you all to come and be a part of it, and all of that." Because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even know that even existed. And so I ended up telling Tori, I was like, "Okay, so should we go to this?" And he was like, "Yeah, we should go." So we just ended up packing up a bunch of stuff, and then we just went. We just, we didn't know what to expect or anything. And we ended up meeting so many celebrities, and how they was just giving away stuff, and, things like that. But they pick one organization to be
mhm.
able to be a part of it. And we happen to be that organization that they picked. So, like I said, just another avenue that God made available,
That's
for us to
wonderful.
do at
See,
that time.
it's because you, once again, it keeps going back. I keep seeing this thread
Hmm.
is being present but also being open. I know myself. I probably would be like, well, "Who the hell is that?" I'm
Hmm.
not. I don't know who that person is. Like
Right.
that's
My
just,
little stick in the mud.
yeah. Just
Yeah.
No, you're
so
not.
but you're but what I mean is I'm a very much more cautious person,
Mhm.
and but time and time again I see what's happened to you is if you weren't just curious and open and
Hmm.
all of those things, this wouldn't have
Hmm.
happened, that wouldn't have happened, you wouldn't have ended up in this room, you wouldn't have ended up at this. So it's a
Yeah, you're
What you might
right.
miss out on.
Yeah. And then for us to get the Emmy nomination, Tori got that situated and set up, and Vegas PBS came to us and asked us to be a part of this writing that they wanted us to do. And they wanted to write a story on our organization. So they followed us. They
Wonderful.
filmed the whole thing. We were doing Dream Girls at that point. I mean, you can go back and actually look at that on Vegas PBS, and they were showing it like every year for a
mm,
long time because the story was so great, and how to really work with the youth in the community that probably wouldn't have never had the opportunity to do that. I mean, there's so many of them that we did. We even did The Doctors. There was a show called The Doctors. We did that. We did a show for that. We performed for Whoopi Goldberg. We opened for her. We opened for Dr. Maya Angelou. Like, I mean, just a numerous of
Wonderful.
people. We had these
Wonderful.
opportunities, and these kids being able to perform in front of these celebrities was the best
Right.
thing that could ever do. And then getting them to even see another life besides what they were brought into is truly amazing. Truly amazing.
Well, I'm just was wondering what was the emotional impact of seeing these kids, many of whom had never seen a stage, stand in
Hmm.
the spotlight. I mean, that
Yeah,
just must have been amazing.
it was. And Tori was so great with um, dealing with them and directing them in a way, because we didn't want just your regular organization where everything's just all kind of cookie cutter and it's all rosy and I had fun and and that kind of thing. No, that's not real life. We wanted to give you the real life of performing. You got to be ready for those no's and know
Mhm.
how to handle it. I don't
Yep.
want you to go out there and then you are very timid
Mhm.
and everything that you say to them would just go left. And it's like, no, we need you to be able to have some thick skin to
Mhm.
you to be able to take that and say, okay, that didn't work out this time, but I'm still going to the next audition. I'm
Right.
still going to continue to do this regardless of if it works out or if it don't. That's
Mhm.
life
Mhm.
is, it may work and it may not work, but either way I need to be okay with that and then just go to the next thing. And so we didn't want to give them something that would be false hope for them. You need to know this is what you're going to deal with. You're going to deal with, I mean, and it's the same thing for theater as it is for cooking. I had
Mhm.
some chefs that were
Absolutely.
total assholes.
Mhm.
Like I was just like, oh my God, like I don't know, like I can't do this with you. You know what I'm saying? But then you look at theater and you have some directors and stuff that could be just as bad, and then they will, how are you going to handle that too, you know and a lot of times they don't mean it to be that way. They just trying to pull something out of you that you probably didn't see in yourself, because they wouldn't have hired you if they didn't see you in you. So you got to put your mindset in that I'm not taking this as a negative, I'm going to take this as a positive.
Well, like, there's also my girlfriend has something on her I keep meaning to have her take a picture of it and text it to me. This plaque in front of her fireplace that I'm paraphrasing. It's like it's not what you do with plan A, it's how you handle plan B when it's not going the way you want it to go. How do you, you gotta be able to zig and zag. You gotta be able to be flexible. You gotta be able to just, "Oh, okay. I guess we're gonna go in this direction now instead of that direction," and be okay with it
And be
too.
okay with it. Yeah, and be
Exactly.
okay with it.
Real
Yeah.
life, real
Hmm.
life.
In 2017, you made a huge decision to return home. What called you back to Winterville?
My mom is the most important thing to me. So when she calls and she needs, I'm usually there. I'm the one that's there. So when she's under distress, I try to make sure that I'm there to fit it. It's just one of those things that I just try to make sure that I do, regardless of what the situation is. So I came back. But if I came back, I needed to be able to do something. And so that's when I created another organization called A Place in the Heart Theater Company. And I decided to train and educate young people here in theater. And so that was to help me to test my own self, you know,
I
in a
love that.
different role, because I was in the background when I was with Broadway in the Hood. But now I'm the forefront of it.
What would you tell young people that are in their small town and do have aspirations about how to do what they want to do in areas that aren't necessarily don't have the outlets?
The first thing is dreaming that you can do something different, that your life doesn't have to be in the area that you're in. I think everyone should at some point in time leave the nest, as they say, and experience what the rest of the world has to offer for you. I think you have to take that into consideration, that everybody's different. You really get a chance, and Vegas is definitely different because it's made up of everybody from everywhere in the world, you know. So you have to learn the difference between um the people, learning their demeanors and learning their ways of how they do certain stuff. So And then you learn, you really have an opportunity to learn different ways of doing things. I mean, even just like with cooking, I mean, you learn different, like I was able to learn Italian cooking, and I was
Great
able to
example.
learn, Asian cooking, and I was learning to Mediterranean, I was able to learn these different things by dealing with different people. And so, what better way than to take what they give you and then make it into something of your own? So, because they said, "Oh my God, mine doesn't taste this good." Well, that's because I added a little something.
Because I put my own spin on it and
I
my own
just jazzed
flavor
it up a
to
little
it.
bit.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right.
So, yeah,
Trying
but it's the
to
same
know what
stuff.
you're doing.
Yeah.
Do you Was it difficult for you to let go of the glitz and the glamour of Las Vegas for your community roots, or was I get the feeling that it wasn't.
It really wasn't. I mean, Vegas was around the clock, working. You didn't get any rest, pretty much. I was delivering flowers at 2 and 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, so yeah, so here I literally it's a slower pace, but you really have a chance to be able to live,
Mhm.
and I think that's the difference between being in the city and then also being, a place where it's so, all the time is always going. You can eat at any time of the the day and night,
Do
you
anything
know
at any time, day and night
yeah,
there.
where so here you don't do that. Like you have a chance to think,
Mhm.
and I think sometimes that's why people they leave their job city area where they are and go to the country or go to the mountains or whatever, just so that they can get a peace of mind to think, okay, how can I be more creative, with things. I know I used to the best time for me was to go on cruises because I never left my room half the time. I just took the cruise just so I could have a chance to sit and write. I just love to open up the door, smell the air in the water, and then just sit and just write. And by the time I get back, I've already written what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
So sometimes you have to change your space and where you are, to get a clear mind.
Shed some new
Hmm.
light,
And
shed some
also
new light.
too, hear that voice,
Mhm.
because
In
you
a
can't hear
quieter
that voice
place.
when everything
Mhm.
is going.
Right,
Mhm.
right. And I think it's so what you touched on also that I traveled a great deal when I was younger, all over Europe at a very young age by myself without speaking the languages, so that was an adventure in wonderland. But boy, didn't that change my perspectives on everything. When you going to another state, to another city, it just broadens your horizons in so many ways. It cracked me wide open and really gave me perspective on a lot of things and what's important, and I love that. I love the saying, "Move a muscle, change a thought." I love that because, go here, try that, do this, and I love and I identify with just being able to smell the ocean air, the sea air because I am just a complete and total water rat, little
Yes.
Cancerian girl, and I'm happiest when I'm next to a body of water, and just the
Right.
smell of the ocean or the sea,
Yes.
just it I get very excited, so, what a great gift to give to yourself,
Yep.
to do that, to take that time.
Hmm.
It's wonderful.
Yep.
So you've reinvented yourself multiple times, but where do you
I'll
think
say, and
where do
then
you think
some.
where do you think your resilience comes from though?
My mom was a very resilient person. Like she would do the exact same stuff. She was a business person. She could sell anything, to anyone. So I would say just seeing her energy, because even right now, her energy outdoes mine any day. And I just sit and I look at it. I'm like, wow, it's just amazing. I'll be in pain. Okay. She's out there still moving stuff and shifting stuff.
Oh,
She has
I love
a
that.
thrift store. And so she gives back to the community
Wow.
all the time. So people are constantly donating stuff to her, and then she turns around and she ends up
Don't tell
donating
me you work
stuff
there too
to
sometimes.
people. I, no, I used to, but I don't now. I'm kind of.
I wouldn't be surprised.
The thrift store is not my thing.
I bet you pulled some costumes out of there, though, for
That I
heaven's
have.
sakes. Thank you
Yes,
very much.
there
I
are
love
perks.
thrift stores. I love thrift stores.
Yes, there are perks to that, you know.
Yeah,
But yeah, she loves the whole thrifting thing and helping people. So I would say I get that resilience from her.
she sounds absolutely lovely. So, what are the biggest differences between doing the work in Las Vegas versus small town North Carolina?
There's no real hotels here. So there's no big lobby pieces. Everything here is funeral home type of stuff, and it's just everyday florals. I don't do much of it anymore as far as being the designer per se, as I did when I was in Vegas. The only time I really do a lot of florals now is if somebody calls me and say, because they know I can do floral, they'll call me and say that, you know, they want me to do a casket piece or something like that. And it's always very elaborate. So they typically, you know, they love when I do it when you have those elaborate, you know, type thing. I say even in death, you know, you still got to have flowers. So
What does beauty mean to you now after everything you've built, let go of, shifted?
me,
Mm,
I feel like I'm beautiful.
mm,
Oh, you definitely are from the
Mm,
inside out.
mm.
yeah, I feel like
You're
I'm beautiful. It took a long time for me to give myself credit for being who I am. I and I know it probably could sound a little conceited or whatever, but I have to give myself credit and say that I really love myself. I do. I don't need the gratification from nobody else anymore. Like I thought that that was what I needed, but throughout my years in life, I just prefer to just say I'm grateful for being able to have done the things that I have done. And I know that there's a lot more that's out there for me to do. And I receive it and I accept it whenever that comes, but I don't have to have it.
I feel like if you practice gratitude, you'll always be happy, from the smallest things to the largest. So that's really beautiful. What do you want the next generation of artists, especially those from rural or marginalized backgrounds, to know?
I would say live your life to the fullest. It is not promised to you. There is no age limit. I think I learned that with Sonia. That was my um excuse me. I get a little emotional when I talk about her. Um but that was my way of understanding that it's short. It can be very unexpected. You don't look for it, it just happens. I thought I would have had a lot more time, but it didn't. So live life to the fullest.
Carpe
No
diem.
mistakes. Whatever the mistake is, deal with it and keep it
Mhm.
pushing.
Learn from it.
Learn from it. Um, just really, really take it for what it is. You know, don't let anybody tell you anything different. If it's in you to do it. And it's not to say that it may work, it might not work.
Deepak Chopra wrote this book, The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success, and I just love that book. And I'm thinking, Preston, you need to write a book, a spiritual guidebook, because you have got it going on. I mean, I've heard so much about Sonia, may she rest in peace. And
Yeah.
Tyler just adored her,
He's
as
he's
you
Yeah.
do.
he's getting me.
Mhm.
I do want to say this, and I do want our listeners and viewers to know this. I know Preston, what I appreciate is that he is the most amazing friend above all else, all his attributes and all his gifts and everything. And he walked with me through a very dark time. And I haven't been public about it, so I don't plan to get into it right now, but I just want them to know how much I appreciate you holding my hand through a lot of difficult things. So
Thank you.
thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Very,
I
very
think
much.
that's what we're supposed to be there, is to be there for each other. Especially when you build connections with each other. You know, it's not about status. It's not about who has the best this and the best that. It's about how can I really be a part of someone's life and then help them through whatever that is. You know, we all need friends. And now when I say friends, I mean true friends.
There's a quote that goes, "People won't remember what you did, but how you made them feel."
How
How
you
you
made
made
them
them feel.
feel.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yes.
that's
Being
very true.
present. And don't all people just want to be heard and understood?
That's
Mhm.
it.
We all do, and to feel loved.
We have reached the significant 7. It's how we close out every episode. All of our guests get the same 7 questions. So, Preston, are you ready for the significant 7?
I hope so. As it ever will be.
If you had to choose one word that holds the most significance in your life, whether it defines you, guides you, or challenges you, what would it be and why?
I would say gratitude. And I would say it because of just being grateful for everything from the beginning of life to the end of life. I think what we do in between, we have to be grateful for whatever that is and what it looks like. So I would say gratitude would definitely be it.
What is the most significant piece of advice you've ever received?
If someone offers you anything or the opportunity to do it, say yes.
What is the most significant risk you've ever taken?
I guess it would be just jumping in business, period. Because business is a risk. I mean, it may work, it may not work, but at least give it your all in whatever it is, if that's what was given to you to do. So I would say it would be business for me.
What is the most significant life lesson that you've ever learned?
Never allow people to change your views.
What significant moment in your life changed how you see the world?
I think it would be going back to when I had Bell palsy. I didn't know what it was. It was frightening to me. And so to see something so drastic happen, it was just out of the blue. So I think coming down with that and never being sick ever before, it was the most shocking and scary thing for me. So I had to jump and figure it out.
What significant relationship do you feel has shaped you the most?
I think it would be my relationship with Sonia. I learned a lot from her, even when I don't think that she realized what she was saying to me, but it was things that resonated with me. It changed my life. It changed my life because I thought I would never find another soul that I could resonate with and, and talk to about anything. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm getting all choked up. That's really beautiful. What is the most significant truth that you've come to understand about yourself?
That I have to be me. And if if nobody accepts it, I have to accept myself. So learn to be who you are and love who you are and thank God for whatever gifts He has given you. Make it not just about yourself, but also about others. How can you take the gift that He's given you and then share that with others? And then you should have your story for yourself.
It's lovely. Lovely.
Preston, thank you so much.
Your family must be so proud of you. just who you are as a person. It's just been an honor to have this conversation with you. So thank you so much. I know why Tyler loves you so much. I do. I love you now too. So
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, until next time, everyone, take care.